Do you ever sit in a quiet room and feel like the silence is just a little too loud? Maybe the days stretch a little longer than they used to. You make a cup of tea, water the plants, watch the same familiar programs on TV, but still, something feels like it's missing. That ache behind the smile. That strange kind of emptiness, even when everything seems fine. If you've ever felt that way, I just want to tell you, you're not alone. Loneliness, especially as we get older, doesn't always look like we expect. It doesn't always come with tears or a sense of crisis. Sometimes it's just a dull throb in the background of our daily lives. A quiet knowing that something used to be more full, more connected. And as time moves on, children grow up and move away, old friends drift, spouses may pass, we can find ourselves wondering, where did everyone go? And who am I without them? But here's the truth, loneliness doesn't mean you've failed. It doesn't mean you're broken or hard to love. It means you're human. And just like hunger tells us we need food, loneliness is a signal that we're craving connection, not just with others, but also with ourselves. That's what we're going to talk about today. Not just how to avoid loneliness, but how to beat it without losing yourself in the process. Because real connection starts with you. Your peace. Your joy. Your sense of self-worth. You're not here to fade quietly into the background, you're still growing, still becoming, still needed. So let's talk about how to bring more light into your life again. And if you enjoy videos about emotional health, aging with strength, and finding deeper meaning in the second half of life, please take a second to give this video a like, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to the channel. I'm on my way to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps this community grow into something truly meaningful. Now, let's begin with something that might sound simple, but it holds surprising power, making space for solitude, not isolation, but intentional solitude. There's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. One drains us, the other can actually restore us. The trick is learning how to turn empty time into nourishing time. Try this, instead of just passing time, give it a purpose. Create a little morning ritual. Light a candle. Put on soft music. Write down 3 things you're grateful for, even small ones: a good night's sleep, the way the sunlight hits the table, the memory of a laugh you had years ago. When we begin to enjoy our own company, we stop needing others to fill every moment. We become someone we like to be around. That kind of energy is magnetic. And more importantly, it's healing. Now, I know that some people might say, but I've been alone for so long, and I still feel empty. That's okay. You're not doing it wrong. It just means you're still learning how to meet yourself again. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in being parents, partners, caregivers, that we forget who we were underneath it all. But rediscovering that person, even decades later, can be a beautiful kind of homecoming. And part of that rediscovery? Movement. I don't mean intense workouts or long gym sessions, unless that's your thing, of course. I'm talking about gentle, intentional movement that brings you back into your body. A morning walk around your neighborhood. Stretching slowly with a cup of tea nearby. Even dancing a little in your kitchen when no one's looking. When we move our bodies, we shake off stagnation. We release stuck energy. We signal to our brain, I'm alive. I'm here. I'm part of the world. A woman once wrote to me and said, I started walking 5 minutes a day, just around my block. At first I felt silly. Then I noticed the sky. The birds. The smell of a neighbor's jasmine bush. And then one day, a woman I'd never met said, You're out here every morning like clockwork. We started chatting. Now we walk together twice a week. That small step turned into something I never expected. That's the thing about life, it responds to movement. When you show up for yourself, even in tiny ways, you create room for others to meet you. And speaking of meeting others, let's talk about reaching out. This one can feel tender, especially if you've been hurt before, or if the people you once leaned on are no longer around. But connection isn't always about deep friendships right away. Sometimes it starts with something as small as a smile to the cashier at the grocery store. A hello to the neighbor walking their dog. A kind word to someone sitting alone in a waiting room. These little human interactions, they stitch us back into the fabric of the world. You don't have to wait for someone else to make the first move. And you don't have to fear rejection, because this isn't about approval. It's about openness. A willingness to be part of the moment. When you open that door, you'd be surprised how many people are waiting on the other side with their own longing to connect. It might sound simple, but even joining a library club or signing up for a gentle class, like Tai Chi or watercolor painting, can lead to bonds that grow over time. Not because you're trying to fit in, but because you're choosing to show up as you are. With all your stories, your wisdom, your quiet strength. And that brings me to one of the most important things I've learned: loneliness is not just a lack of people. Sometimes it's a lack of being seen. Truly seen, for who you are today, not just who you were years ago. That kind of visibility starts with one brave question: what do I need today, really? Is it company? Is it laughter? Is it permission to cry a little and let go of what you've been holding onto for too long? When you ask that question sincerely, and listen gently to the answer, you begin a different kind of relationship with yourself. One that doesn't depend on how many friends you have or how many messages light up your phone. It depends on honesty. On presence. On nurturing yourself the way you once nurtured others. And you deserve that. And sometimes, nurturing yourself means remembering that your story is still being written. That your life isn't on pause, or stuck in the past, or waiting for someone to come rescue it. One of the most powerful ways to ease loneliness is to find something that pulls you forward, something new to grow into, no matter how small it may seem at first. It might be something creative. Art, music, writing. You don't need to be a professional or good at it. You just need to enjoy it. There's something deeply healing about expressing what's inside you, especially the parts that haven't had words in a long time. A woman I spoke to recently said she started painting with watercolors in her 70s after losing her husband. At first, it was just a way to pass the time. But then she found that each brushstroke felt like an unspoken memory coming to life. I felt like I was remembering parts of myself I didn't know I had, she told me. That's the magic of creativity. It's not about the final product. It's about the connection you build with yourself in the process. Maybe for you, it's writing letters to your younger self. Or planting a small garden. Or finally learning how to play that old guitar in the corner of the room. The point isn't perfection. It's presence. It's being here, in this moment, doing something that feeds your spirit and reminds you, you are more than your loneliness. And here's something else that might surprise you. One of the most underestimated ways to feel connected again is by helping someone else. Not because you're trying to be needed, or to prove anything, but because service has a way of opening doors where walls used to be. When you show up for someone else, you shift the focus from, what's missing in me, to, what can I give with what I already have? It doesn't need to be grand or exhausting. It can be as simple as calling someone who lives alone just to say hello. Dropping off a meal for a neighbor going through a rough patch. Reading to children at your local library. Or even listening, really listening, to someone share their worries. Giving your time, your attention, your warmth, these are powerful gifts. And when you offer them, you're reminded that you still matter. That your life still touches others. I once heard a man in his 80s describe how volunteering at a local shelter saved him from the darkest depression of his life. I thought I was useless, he said. Then I started serving lunch on Tuesdays. People smiled at me. They remembered my name. And suddenly, I had a reason to get up in the morning. That reason didn't come from someone telling him he was important. It came from him choosing to show up, even when it felt easier not to. Sometimes the best way to rediscover our purpose is by helping someone else find theirs. Because when you extend kindness outward, it has a way of circling back. Now, I want to gently touch on something deeper, something we don't always talk about out loud. And that is, grief. Not just the grief of losing people we love, though that's heavy enough. But the quiet grief of what's changed. Of who we used to be. Of how the world has shifted around us. It's okay to feel that. It's okay to miss what was. It's even okay to wish for things that can't come back. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you real. But what you do with that grief matters. You can carry it like a weight that drags you down, or you can honor it by letting it soften you. Let it teach you compassion. Let it open your heart to others who might also be carrying quiet sorrow. When we stop fighting our pain, it has less control over us. It becomes part of our story, not the whole story. And sometimes, the most healing thing is to simply say, "This hurts, but I'm still here." You don't have to pretend to be cheerful all the time. You just have to keep showing up. For yourself. For your moments. For the life that's still unfolding in front of you. One gentle way to hold that space for yourself is through reflection. Set aside a few minutes each evening, maybe before bed, to ask yourself, what made me feel connected today? It might be a conversation, a memory, even a song that stirred something inside you. Write it down, or just whisper it to yourself. This practice helps your mind start noticing the small ways you are, in fact, not alone. You might also ask, what do I want to invite into my life tomorrow? Not a to-do list, but a feeling. Do you want more laughter? Peace? Clarity? Playfulness? When we live with intention, even quietly, we start seeing opportunities we once missed. Loneliness begins to loosen its grip. And that brings me to another truth, perhaps one of the most liberating of all: you don't have to be surrounded by people to feel whole. You can be deeply connected and still spend much of your time in quiet. What matters is the quality of your relationships, not the quantity. One deep, genuine connection is more healing than 10 shallow ones. That connection can be with a friend, a neighbor, a family member, or even with yourself. Don't underestimate the power of your own presence. Your ability to comfort yourself, to inspire yourself, to sit in silence without judgment. That is strength. That is resilience. And it's something no one can take from you. The world often tells us we need to be busy to feel valuable. That we need to socialize constantly, stay in the loop, always be on. But the truth is, sometimes, healing comes in the quiet. In saying no to what drains you, and yes to what feeds your soul, even if it looks different from what others expect. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to walk away from relationships that no longer honor who you are. And you are allowed to love yourself enough to be selective with how you spend your time. There's nothing selfish about that. In fact, it's the beginning of something powerful, something that helps you move from loneliness into something softer, something like belonging. Belonging. That's such a tender word, isn't it? It's not about fitting in, or forcing yourself into spaces that don't feel right. It's about being where your soul can breathe. Where you don't have to shrink yourself to be accepted. And sometimes, especially as we grow older, that sense of belonging starts within. It begins when you stop chasing the past or worrying about who isn't calling, and instead turn gently toward the life that's still here, waiting for you. And here's something that might surprise you: one of the most beautiful ways to reconnect with life is to spend time in nature. Not just for exercise or fresh air, though those are wonderful, but to let yourself feel part of something bigger. Something ancient. When you're surrounded by trees, or watching the sky change color, or simply feeling the earth under your feet, loneliness has a way of softening. You begin to remember that you are not separate from the world. You are deeply woven into it. One man told me that after his wife passed, he started walking at the same time every evening, just before sunset. I didn't do it to get healthy, he said. I did it because the sky made me feel less alone. And isn't that something? The way a soft breeze, the sound of birdsong, or the feel of sunlight on your face can gently remind you that you're still connected to everything. Nature doesn't judge. It doesn't rush. It simply is, and when we allow ourselves to slow down and be present with it, it reflects back the peace that's already inside us. You don't have to go far. A park bench, a patch of garden, even just sitting by an open window and watching the world go by, it's enough. It's more than enough. Now, while nature heals in quiet ways, there's also something to be said for laughter. For joy. For moments that catch you by surprise and remind you that not everything has to be serious or heavy. Laughter is medicine, genuine, belly-deep laughter that bubbles up when you least expect it. It could be from a silly memory. A favorite comedy you've seen 100 times. A phone call with someone who just gets you. Sometimes, when the world feels heavy, we forget that it's okay to feel light. It's okay to seek out joy. To chase it a little. To let yourself be silly again, like you were when you were younger and everything didn't feel so complicated. And maybe, just maybe, that's one of the secrets to easing loneliness. Letting yourself return to what made you come alive, even if you haven't touched it in decades. Music you used to dance to. Books you couldn't put down. Hobbies that fell by the wayside when life got busy. These aren't just pastimes, they're part of you. And when you bring them back, you're not just passing the time, you're reawakening parts of your soul. One woman told me she started baking again at age 73 after years of barely stepping foot in the kitchen. I thought, why not, she said. It used to make me happy. And now, it still does. That simple act, flour on her hands, music playing softly in the background, became a ritual that grounded her. That reminded her she was still here, still creating, still capable of joy. And let's not forget, you don't have to do everything alone. Sometimes we isolate ourselves without even meaning to, thinking no one would understand, or we'd just be a burden. But often, there are people who would love to connect, who feel just as alone, but don't know how to reach out either. So, what if you made the first move? What if you invited a neighbor over for tea, or joined a small group at the library, or attended a community class, not because you have to, but because you're curious? Not everyone you meet will be your person. But all it takes is one conversation, one spark, to start building something new. It's never too late to form meaningful relationships. Some of the richest friendships I've ever seen began later in life, when both people had stopped pretending, had nothing left to prove, and could just be together. There's something deeply refreshing about that kind of honesty. And on the days when no one is around, when the house feels too quiet and the phone doesn't ring, remind yourself of this: your worth isn't measured by how many people need you. You are not lonely because you're unlovable. You are simply human. And being human means feeling deeply, missing things, longing for connection, and still finding beauty in the small things. There is courage in waking up and choosing to keep going. In making your cup of tea, in folding the laundry, in sitting in stillness without rushing away from yourself. There is dignity in your days, even the quiet ones. Even the messy ones. So if you take nothing else from this conversation, I hope you carry this with you: loneliness doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're longing. And longing, when met with kindness and curiosity, becomes a bridge, not a wall. You don't have to fix everything at once. Just start small. Say yes to one thing that brings you closer to yourself or to someone else. Reach out, even if your voice shakes. Laugh, even if it's been a while. Take a walk, even if it's just to the mailbox. Write a letter. Plant a seed. Hum a tune you haven't heard in years. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not alone, not in the ways that matter most. And if this video has given you even a moment of comfort, or sparked a thought, or reminded you that you're still part of something meaningful, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below, share your story, or simply say hello. Let's make this a space where kindness lives. And if these gentle conversations speak to your heart, I invite you to like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. I'm slowly building this little community, one thoughtful soul at a time, and it would mean the world to have you on this journey with me. You deserve a life that feels like yours. Not just filled with tasks or obligations, but filled with moments that feel right. Moments that remind you, you're still growing, still discovering, still deeply worthy of connection. So here's to you. To living with intention, to making peace with the quiet, and to finding belonging, within and without. No matter your age, your past, or your circumstances, there's still so much life ahead. And you don't have to lose yourself to find your way back. You are enough, exactly as you are. And you are loved.